Hi, my name is Tracy Lynn, and welcome back to the Hold the Granola podcast, a no bullshit approach to the yoga industry. On today's episode, we are examining the metal yoga scene and how alternative yogis are helping others embrace their shadow. My guest for today is Tina, the sole owner and creator of Black Widow Yoga. In February 2017, Black Widow Yoga began as a metal yoga class at the Satanic Temple in Salem, Massachusetts. Whether it is through metal and goth athleisure wear or pop-up metal yoga classes at breweries and studios, Black Widow Yoga is an inclusive and welcoming habitat to all people, bodies, and experience levels. The yoga teacher that taught us to honor our darkness, Tina. Hi, Tina.
Hello.
Hello. Good day.
Good day.
Good day. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Not as tired as I thought I would be. How are you?
Same. I'm about 3/4 of the way through my coffee here, so this is going to keep me going through our interview. But thank you so much for coming on to Hold the Granola. I know it's like a very new podcast, and I wanted to just create a forum for people that I thought were doing really, really awesome work in the community and kind of lift their voices and draw attention and light to them. And we have known each other for maybe like a year.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll do anything that you want.
And same, girl. Like, name it, I'm there.
Yes.
And it's just been awesome to collaborate and do classes. And it was, in particular, really awesome to see how you adapted your business model once coronavirus hit. Everybody kind of decided whether to grow or go and do the online thing. And it seemed like everything was really seamless and effortless for you.
Yeah. I got really lucky that I already had a lot of people outside of my immediate Salem area that were interested in my classes. So all I had to do was advertise that we were doing virtual, and they were on board and they were there. They were on Zoom. So I was really lucky that I already had a base of people that had wanted to join for a while.
Yeah. And I love, I don't know if it's just special to me because I'm in California, and California is so new and boring that everything that you're doing is in Salem, Mass. It just adds so much to your brand, even though you are, by the time this podcast releases, then you're going to suddenly be a Texan.
I don't know if I'm going to fit in.
Oh, you totally are.
I'm very pale.
You are pale, but Austin is full of super fringy people.
It's true. Yeah, I don't think I would be anywhere else in Texas if it weren't for Austin. I think I would feel accosted everywhere I went.
Yeah.
No offense to Texans, love you. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here now.
Yeah.
Not really yet, but I will be.
No, I gotta say that my partner Kamar is from Houston, Texas, and I had my own.
So is George, my husband.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Sugarland.
Holy shit.
Kamar's
from all over. He's moved and lived into every part of Houston, so I can't pinpoint exactly where he's from. But
how old is he?
He's 31.
Oh, my husband's 35. They probably knew each other.
Maybe they knew each other because
maybe.
Yeah, my boyfriend would go to these old backyard warehouse metal shows, and so maybe they crossed paths at some point.
We need to know.
Right. Next time I see my boyfriend after we're done with this interview, I will ask him.
Yes.
But no, I think you're going to love Austin, and I love Texas every time I go because I think it's a really culturally rich place. And in general, like the Southern attitude, like even if you're really different from whoever they are, they're just kind of like, cool, yeah, do your thing, like over there. And I'll just like do my thing over here. So, no, I
Hmm.
think the community there is going to totally embrace you. What motivated this move, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I have always wanted to get my master's degree in policy or public affairs, and doing some research on the best schools to do that. The LBJ School of Public Affairs popped up as like one of the top. I think it's the number 11 public affairs program in the country. Maybe it's different now, but and I was kind of like, that's perfect. I've always thought about moving to Austin because I went there. Um, well, I heard a lot about it from some friends from college, and they moved down, and they seemed to really like it. And the idea of warm weather all year was very attractive to me because
Yes.
as someone from the north, like my whole life, I just had to deal with the winters. And even if it's like super hot and all you can do is stay inside all day in Texas, at least you don't have to shovel snow. Like you don't have to shovel the heat. There's no extra work added. So it's like I'm down to stay inside if need be. I just don't have to go out and do extra work.
Yeah. No, you don't have to shovel your ass out of anything anymore.
Just metaphorically.
Yes, metaphorically, because Texas sun is a son of a bitch. It is a unique type of heat.
That's a great pun.
Yeah. No, and my boyfriend even likes to explain, like, he's like, Houston people, because it gets really like swampy in
Mhm.
Houston. Austin is just like hot. And they also call
Dry heat.
Austin East California, if you didn't know.
Huh. I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And
I'm
it's kind
definitely
of,
gonna miss the ocean though.
yeah. Right, because in Salem,
Definitely.
you have like the wharf, like you're on the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, we're right on the ocean. I live right off of Ocean Ave. Ocean Ave's like I can see the street, and then if you just go down the street, would take 1.5 minutes to walk. It's right on the ocean. It's right. Actually, the Hocus Pocus house is around the corner from me.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
There's always people like with their goth outfits. You can see that they're from California. They're just like dripping, you know. They're like, finally, I have someone to wear this black outfit. And they're in front of the Hocus Pocus house, and it's just so cute. I love it.
Oh my god. Are you gonna like miss the culture and the history of Salem?
I am gonna miss everything so much, especially that. Like everywhere I go now in Salem, I'm just like, I'm gonna miss the brick. I'm gonna miss a lot of brick. I'm gonna miss. I realize, like, I love bricks for some reason. All of a sudden, now that I'm leaving, I'm like, bricks are great. Just because you can see the history, you can see it visually. But just to talk about like current events too, like I had a moment the other day. I was like, "Oh, look at this building. It's like the Hawthorne, hotel or whatever." And I was like, "All these buildings are named after like super rich white guys. Like, what kind
Hmm.
of history am I really remembering with this? Like,
Hmm.
it's great architecture, but that was a tactic used by rich white guys to seem more powerful, to put their name on some nice building. So, in light of like Black Lives Matter and all that stuff going on, I think that it's important to really know what kind of history is being shown through that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, and I've been trying to, confront the same thing in every aspect of my life and a lot of just to bring a lot more awareness of like what is contributing to what I do, like how much do BIPOC voices have a part in my life. And I'm very fortunate, my partner is Nigerian, he's half Nigerian, and so he's been the most wonderful teacher and has been teaching me to have a lot more discernment in my life in terms of like what am I ingesting and what am I consuming. And also, he is a yoga practitioner himself. And so, as a Black person stepping into yoga practices, which typically in America, like yoga spaces are white spaces. And he
Hmm.
was the one that taught me about those differences between white spaces and Black spaces, and about how, as white people, like we don't really think of that unless we are a minority in a
Right.
space, right?
Totally.
And not to parallel these two things because they are radically, radically different. But one of the first things that I wanted to really like unpack with you is like what birthed your business. And to me, like being an alternative person in a yoga space is really unique and is really important. And I guess for me, like when I was young and started being more expressive of myself through being more gothy or being kind of dark, because I was really into metal, and also I was really into like goth clubs. Like I was like the industrial goth metalhead.
And we love you for that.
Thanks. Yes, we all have a space in this. I don't even like calling it a scene because I'm like, it's not a phase, mom. Like, I'm
Right.
into my 30s now, so I'm pretty sure this is like the way it's going
This
to
is
be.
a minute to win it now. Now I'm just solidifying my look.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, this is, yeah. I'm like getting all the like tattoos that I got in my early 20s. I'm like getting them redone again because they've seen like too many Burning Mans and.
Yeah, just the sun damage alone.
Oh my God. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, break that down for me. Like, I would love to kind of hear about your like initial expressions of yourself and how you tie that into your business.
Yeah, so actually in high school, just to go back to like how I felt in high school, kind of like how you said you felt.
Hmm.
I wasn't initially like a metal kid. I was more into punk music, and I was actually more into ska too. I just really like ska for a hot minute there.
Oh shit, Scott.
So I'm a little like
I
embarrassed to talk about that, but whatever. It got me into punk, so I'm glad that I
exactly.
had that moment. But
It was the
I guess
gateway drug.
yeah. Well, the reason I like ska so much wasn't necessarily that it was just the music that I loved. It was like the scene that I felt comfortable in. It was a very young scene. It was my age at the time. Which, if there is ever a ska show, especially now, I went to one like I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago, just to kind of see, and it was like 13-year-olds, and I was like, "Yep." But that's like a good age group for that music. It's a fun show. You're
Yeah.
just skanking around. Yeah, that's what the kids call it, skanking.
Skanking.
And it's just like a fun time. So I guess when I got older, like I grew out of that and I started getting into punk where, you know, the shows are still fun. You get to fucking punch people in the face. Not I mean maybe not really. I never got punched in the face. Definitely elbowed by accident. But
Yeah.
when you're a girl in the punk scene, they either like, you know, act like you don't really listen to this band, or they like pull you out of the pit, like, don't fall. And I'm like, yes, thanks for not
Ah.
stepping on me.
Yeah, seriously.
So I started getting into metal in my, let's see, early 20s, um, maybe like late teens. And it was really like heightened by, not to get super dark, but that's kind of what we're doing here, right? Getting dark.
Yes.
Um, it was sparked by my father's eventual passing from cancer. He was sick for when I was 18. He got cancer, and we think it's because he was working in Iraq for a little while. He was in the military, but he was working as a civilian. Um, so he was in Baghdad, and although it's a green zone, you don't really know what kind of chemicals are in the air. And he had a very rare kind of cancer called sarcoma, which
Mm.
I don't know if you've heard of that, but it
Yeah, I have. I've worked with cancer patients in yoga and have heard of sarcoma.
yeah. I actually didn't I was so in denial of everything that was going on that I didn't even learn what kind of cancer he had until after he died. Probably like 6 months
Mm.
after he died, I learned what kind of cancer he had because I was just like, "This isn't happening. It's cancer. I don't need to know anything else. There's tumors going on. I don't really." And I was going through my yoga training at the time when he
Mm.
was really sick in the hospital. I think I was 20, 21 or so, 22 maybe. And so all of a sudden, we thought, he was in the hospital and he got a little better for 6 months, went home, which was amazing. And then he got worse, way worse. I remember one day he just started babbling nonsense. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Mm.
So we had to take him to the hospital. He had a fever. It was just right back to where it was before. So he one day I got a call. It was either, I forget, it was the doctor or my mom or something, and they said there's a new doctor on the case, and they said he has 3 months. And at that point, my practice at home was already pretty solid. Um, and because I was so depressed with what was going on, I was already kind of just blasting like doom metal mostly, and doing yoga in the dark of my room with like a candle or like this orange lamp I really liked, and just kind of connecting with just the immediate space around me, because something about not lighting too many lights in the room, just having the candle and having that dark music just made me feel kind of like comfortable and hugged by that like sense of you're alone, but I can't really describe it. Something about the lights being very bright makes me, while I'm doing yoga, feel a little bit weird sometimes. Um, I guess as somebody in high school that used to have like an eating disorder, I try not to go to studios that have mirrors. I try not to like, be too overly critical. So the darkness kind of also helps me focus on what I'm doing and not necessarily like what my body looks like, and, outside of the realm of, am I doing this pose safely? So that's me
Yeah.
babbling for a bunch of minutes. Is that how the
No.
podcast works?
Fuck yeah. That's how it fucking works.
Okay, good.
And thank you for sharing that, because that's very intense and traumatic and emotional. And it just makes so much sense that we click, because I gravitate towards people that are embracing of their darkness. Because to me, people that don't, it feels inauthentic, or at least I have a difficult time connecting with them, because I can just tell, like, when I am being transparent and I am sharing about my darkness, like they're not gonna get it. Like they don't understand how it feels, like kind of using your words, like it felt like a hug. Like to me,
Hmm.
embracing my darkness is medicinal for me. Also, by the way,
Yeah,
my cat likes to walk a lot into
I love your
frame.
cat.
She's so good. And like,
Yeah,
yeah, go for it.
I think that it's so amazing to share your trauma with another person and to have them do it with you. It's an immediate human, connection, immediate just recognizing of each other's, past. And I think that's really important, because if you don't know someone's past, you can't really move forward into the future and like get to know them there. Because I like, as a kid, I would always ruminate on these ideas of like, this person did something bad, but why? What led to this? Like, did they have trauma as a child that led them
Mm.
to, perpetuate this trauma or perpetuate this violence? Either whether it's like physical or verbal, like what is their past depicting into their future? So I think that without delving into each other's darkness, we can't really begin to see the light of like hope and change. And, there's always room for the darkness. There's always going to be that trauma, but it's a means of, it's a matter of being able to openly feel that experience, or you're not going to grow from it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that knowing that and understanding that makes you, one, like just a better person in general, understanding that when somebody is having a negative reaction or they're being reactive in general, I try to not take it personally, because I understand and believe that they could be going through something or have experienced something, and perhaps I triggered that, or they were triggered by something just before our interaction. And so it really brings like a humanness into everything when I understand that, like, the trauma in me sees the trauma in you. Like that's kind of been my
Hmm.
mantra the past few weeks, because collectively and globally people are starting to unpack their trauma through everything that's going on in America, with like how coronavirus is having us kind of contract. There's people that are still going to work every day, and that makes them feel a certain way. People that have lost their jobs or are now working at home and completely changing their schedules, like that's really tough. People confronting their white privilege, people confronting their male privilege, people confronting, how they've been treated as a person of color, how people in the LGBTQIA plus community, they're also confronting all of this. And so it's like, I'm entering everything with kid gloves right now, just with like a softness, because
yeah,
like that's the only way we're going to get through this, is not by throwing stones, but by listening.
yeah. I think that's a really great point, especially with the divide of like, how divisive we are with politics right now. And as hard as it is for us, I don't know if you call yourself a liberal, but we're definitely both on the left. I know that. Um,
Hmm.
it's definitely hard to like patiently listen to like family members or just like maybe some friends that you just happen to have on Facebook still that are like talking about these really conservative points, and sometimes they come off very racist, sometimes they are racist things to say, and it's hard to, you know as like the white, as a white girl, for me, I immediately I just want to unfriend them. I want to just delete them from my life, delete them from my social media. But then I realized that, you know, part of the work that we should be doing as like white people is to be educating each other, because if we don't do it for each other, then that down the line they could do something that injures, whether it's verbally, physically, whatever it might be, a person of color. So I think, in reading, I just read White Fragility, and I forget the author's name. I think her first name is Robin, but that book was really eye opening, not because it was all brand new information, but it was all about this white person teaching white people how to act, because the burden should fall on us. The burden should be on us to correct each other's, speech, correct each other's actions, and understand that there could be trauma under there. So
Hmm.
to meet them where they're at and to drag them towards the side of respect and understanding instead of just yelling, because that can actually, like you say, trigger a response, trigger the trauma or whatever it is that's causing this kind of visceral reaction. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that you're absolutely right that when we just see something that we don't like and we just delete those people, we sterilize our space.
Yeah.
And I don't like sterilizing my space, because I believe that we should constantly be looking at and examining counterpoints and burdening ourselves in that argumentative way of like, okay, this person thinks this way. Why do they think this way? Not, I don't think everybody should think the same way. Like that isn't going to change things either. Like I don't think that racism is going to be eradicated. Like I believe that there
Hmm.
are people that are going to continue to think this way. But an important thing to do is to fight for and work towards equality in the judicial system in our country, to make sure that even though there are people that think a certain way, we can still champion for other type of groups and demographics and make sure that they actually do receive fair treatment when they are here. I
Hmm.
think that that's going to be the most important thing, because out of all of the Facebook arguments I've gotten in, I haven't really successfully changed anybody's mind.
Yeah. It's hard.
Like, it's so hard. Even the other day, I got into it wasn't an argument, it was actually a very productive conversation because of the way I approached it. He was, this individual was grouping defunding and abolishing the police as the same thing. And instead of calling him a fucking idiot, I was like, well, where did like, where did you learn that? And he's like, well, I just heard it's the same thing. And I was like, oh, this person probably thinks, and I like asked him, like, because it is kind of a left leaning or like leftist idea, which there are, abolishing and defunding are two different things,
Hmm.
but they're kind of in this area of a left approach to a solution to police brutality. And so I kind of just went through like, yeah, like defunding does not mean getting rid of police. And eventually he kind of got there and was like, hey, thanks for like actually talking with me about it. And so as long as I get like little golden nuggets like that
Yeah.
every once in a while, I'm
And
happy.
I think it's also important to understand, like, when I talk to people as myself and when I talk to people as my brand, I take very different approaches when it comes to stuff like this, because I have with Black Widow Yoga, it's just me. So a lot of people think it's like this team of people. It's literally just me. So I wanted to make sure that my views on equality and everything that yoga should stand for is out there, and it's being championed, it's being talked about, and it's not so my approach to this whole thing is there is no exception. There is only equality. We are going to stand for Black Lives Matter, which is the bare minimum, honestly. They should more than just matter, which they do.
Hmm.
And but when I'm online as myself, I try to take that approach that you were just talking about, kind of like one step at a time. Um, because I do have some family that unfortunately isn't totally on board, and it's hard to educate people, especially that you love, because you want them to be the purest good, like most amazing person that you see in your mind is like when you were a child, but now that you're older, you kind of see like people are complicated, and not everyone is like that perfect adult that we all thought. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a hard realization about your family and your friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate that my family has been very like radical. Like both of my parents were protesters when civil rights, like the original movement was going on. Like my dad was talking about how he like shoveled dirt onto the 101 when like the draft was going on, and my mom was there during the Isla
Mhm.
Vista riots and everything. And so I remember when this was going down, my mom called me one day and was just like in tears because she was like, we didn't do enough. I mean, I'm just like getting teary right now thinking about it, because I'm sure a lot of people that really saw like the momentum around it and weren't actually privy to like everything that led up to now, um, that there is still so much work to do. And I think we're going to be doing this work for the rest of our lives. And so we got to strap in for the long ride on this.
Definitely.
And I'm
Yeah,
fucking
it's work
okay
that
with
you have to
that
do every day. I'm
every day.
Yeah. It's weird to see the news feeds go from, Black Lives Matter everywhere to the normal feed, but I guess I'm not irked by that as much as businesses and people going back to normal. I I think that's the issue, because obviously I think that there is going to be a dial back of like that kind of activism, but as long as you're implementing real sustainable change, I think that is where you need to be looking out and making sure those changes are happening. Like, for instance, with Black Widow Yoga, I took a really hard look at my Instagram feed and my Facebook, and I realized I didn't have as many people of color. I don't think I had any Black or Indigenous people of color. So I was, you know, just kind of thought about it and was like, I mean, obviously it wasn't even a thought. It was like, I need more models. I need more models. And it's not just
Hmm.
because obviously I want people to see that I'm doing that. Like, I want to make sure that my brand is seen and inclusive to all people, because it's not about being white and being goth and being metal. It's about those lifestyles, and they're for everybody. They're for Black people, they're for Indigenous people, they're for Asian people, they're for white people, and etc. So, as a queer woman too, I try to make my brand as inclusive as possible, because it's more than just about me. It's about everyone accessing that style, everyone accessing that trauma, and making it into something that can be kind of fun. So yeah, that was just one of the changes I started to make too.
Yeah, and I like see you doing that. I applaud you doing that, because I mean it's true. Like when me and my partner go to metal shows or alt spaces or wherever we go, like, I mean, he's definitely a minority when he steps into those spaces. And there was once we went to a Wardruna show, and so they do like the Viking shit.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like, "Holy shit, baby! There's like only 2 other Black people here." And he was like, "Are you sure?" Like, I'm like, "Yes, yes, 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 yes. Please, please, please. Like, be here. I love you. I support you."
Yeah.
But like Hai Long, like, because I do love that genre of music as well. Like, I love ritual music. Hai Long came out with a statement because they had somebody voice an opinion about, because they don't even really do shows, like they just perform live ritual.
Yeah.
And somebody had said something discriminatory about like there shouldn't be BIPOC people at these rituals, and they're like, "Are you fucking kidding? Like, this is the entire point of our band is inclusion of all people,
Mm-hmm.
and like honoring Earth and honoring all beings that walk on Earth." And they handled it really, really well. And I think that we need to perpetuate that in our spaces. We need to make sure that people feel safe in our spaces. And I feel like that
Mm-hmm.
is white allyship. Like, we have to stand
Yeah.
in front of that.
Yeah. We're
Mm-hmm.
definitely seeing a lot of businesses' true colors, what kind of statements they're making, if they're doing it right away, and if they're actually implementing real change and not just doing it for the Instagram feed and not just doing it for show. So I think that will start to unravel. And I see you posting a lot about like different yoga companies, like big ones that are kind of showing their true colors in a bad way. And
Mm-hmm.
it's horrible, but it's also good to know so that we can start to boycott those brands. Um, and kind of similar to the way that I know that the brands that you're sharing about aren't exactly like Bikram because it's a different kind of thing. But when that came out, I mean, that was huge.
Yeah.
Studios started pulling his name off of their, like taking it off of their name, just hot yoga. You would see the ones that, I mean, there's one in a couple towns over that still uses Bikram in their name. And I'm like, at the first day I went to that studio, I had this older man call me honey and basically,
Ew.
um, yeah, patronize
Ew.
me because I don't even remember. It was no reason, of course. He was just kind of this dude, it was just like, it's so, yeah, I think that as yoga teachers, that we need to be held to a standard that is much higher than, of course, the president,
Don't get me
which
started.
is so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, don't get my blood pressure up this high.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. Like, yeah. I mean, I have been really, really, I've been really examining how certain things that I have been involved with are shaped by male ideals. And, for me, like, and this is what I think is very important as yoga practitioners, because we're students first and we're teachers second. That's what I
Hmm.
believe. Is that like I am, this practice for me, I have to every single day, like, remember that I'm doing this to be the highest expression of myself I can be. And that I am a female, and I am also a sober individual. I am all these things, and because I am these things, like, that doesn't mean that whoever is next to me can't be who they are going to be, and like, I know that
Hmm.
you're really proud about cannabis use, and I love that, and you bring that into your business. Like, you just released that Sweet Leaf Connection collection, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah. Our designer, Dylan Garrett Smith, he designs almost all of our patterns and he killed it with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. I just love watching you express yourself in your brand and in your clothing. And it just is really, it's just awesome to see you just be yourself and put it out there. And it's so well received. Like, I think when
Oh,
we first met,
yeah.
it was like you were just kind of beginning, because I kind of took like a nice little journey all the way back to the beginning for you.
That must have been interesting. It
It
looks
was
totally
great.
different before the clothesline.
Yeah, no, it's so different. And like when we started to kind of get together on doing this podcast, and part of your story was hosting your first Black Widow yoga class at the Satanic Temple.
Hmm.
What, like, where did that idea come from? Were you associated? Are you involved with them? Because I think it's so, because I think that what the Satanic Temple stands for is really amazing. And like I was going through their website again last night and all the little, I have a couple of friends that are affiliated and stuff. And so, what brought you to host a yoga class there?
So let me think. I think they had just moved in kind of recently
Mm-hmm.
into Salem. They made Salem their headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think someone had the idea first, or not the idea first. Someone said, "Oh, Tina, what about this place? You could do it there." And I was like, "Oh my god, that is fucking brilliant! I'm going there now." So I'd had the idea of metal yoga for a little while,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel like it really clicked with anywhere that were like, "Yeah, you can have it here." But I was like, "That's not the experience I want to share with people. I want to share this like full bodied experience of like the
Mm-hmm.
music, the people, the environment, the art, the space. Like the whole thing needs to feel good. It needs to feel like that feeling that I'm trying to share." So I went there, and there was someone that was working it at the time. I won't share their name here, but a friend of mine, and he was just like the super queer, super cool guy, very tall, very intimidating, but such a sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
And he was super down. And, he let me use that space for just not a lot of money. I was like, "Can I give you a cut of the money?" Like, "Oh, okay," very sweet. And so I did that for about, I think I was there for 2 years. Um, and I'm not going to go super into it because there's a whole thing about it, but there was a little controversy around the Satanic Temple. Some old podcasts had come out. I'm not sure if you heard about that, with one of the founders. And I was just like, there's no way for me to fact check. Or, well, actually, no, I heard the recording and there
Mm.
was a response. And I emailed them and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And you need to make a public statement, or I need to cut ties because I'm not going to stand for this kind of thing. And
Mm.
they refused, and I chose to move on. And but in the long run, I thank the person that let me into that space for doing so. He was such a kind individual, and it's unfortunate that it didn't continue. But honestly, I was still growing out of the space anyways. It's a very small room.
Okay.
So Green Tea Yoga in Salem,
Mhm.
Maggie, she owns the studio and she's a sweet angel. So if you're looking for a Salem studio, highly recommend Green Tea Yoga if you're in the Salem area, because I'll be gone. So she was kind enough to let me in again for very little money. Like I wasn't making a ton at the time. So, and, you know, sometimes it's still hard. But I've been very lucky with the Salem community. Everyone is so welcoming, so progressive for the most part.
Mhm.
Um, and this whole idea of metal yoga and Satan and the Satanic Temple, and that's what got me a lot of attention at first.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that. I remember one day I was supposed to be in the Boston Globe. He came and did a photo shoot at the Satanic Temple. And it's supposed to be just kind of like a little thing that they were doing about like goat yoga and metal yoga and stuff like that. And then I woke up one morning and I think a friend like called me and was like, "Tina, your thing's on the front page of this newspaper." And I
Oh
was like,
shit.
"What?" So I biked down to the store and I got like a bunch of them, and it was like the literal first, the front page biggest picture was my yoga class. Was this guy doing like a side bend, and it said, I think it said like something death metal, but it was like a rainbow, and it was just like perfect, and I could not believe that happened. And so I've been very blessed with like that kind of like attention from
Mm.
interested people, and people like us that want to find that inclusive dark yoga space that's not about love and light. It's about realness and connection.
Mhm. And like I'm down for love and light too, but also like I think it's very overused and
Yeah.
it's spiritual bypassing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I want to honor people's darkness because to me, like, metal came into my life in a very dark time when I was like heavily abusing drugs and abusing alcohol, and metal was the soundtrack to my agony.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know, like it was, and I was really young when I got clean and sober. I was only like 17 years old, but I was going to metal shows since I was 15. And so like it was very important for me when I got sober to then like go back and go and see some of these bands again that I was like in a drunken stupor the first time that I saw them. And so like my, my love for metal music hasn't crossed over into my like public teaching as much because like where I was, it wasn't really like you kind of had a really unique niche where it was this offering of like it's all you, it's all this, and like I was only teaching in these corporate studios where I don't think it would have flown. They'd be like, "What? Like, no, we need you to play like taiko and fucking whatever pop music," which no shade on
Yeah,
people that teach to pop music. Like you talked about like your mentor, like that's what he teaches, but it kind of it works. Like it works for that teacher, not for
right.
you, not for me, but like yeah.
Hmm. Well, I think that it's all about making the yoga space that you hold into a place that people feel welcome and comfortable. So if you're using pop music to make that happen, then that works.
Hmm.
Obviously, I don't want to come into a class every day where it's pop music, but David Vendetti is one of my teachers from when I got my certificate at South Boston Yoga, who just closed down. I'm so sad. I could
I
cry just
saw
thinking about it.
that. Mm.
They're amazing. But so David Vendetti, he is this super warm, amazing person that he will just listen to your problems and he'll be there for you no matter what. I mean, I could text him and after 5 years of not speaking for whatever, and then he'll just kind of like be there. So he would play pop music during his classes and he's super fun. He'll put on like Madonna or whatever the hell, and it's just like he'll make you dance to it and he'll make you have a good time, even though it's an hour and a half long, sweaty Sunday morning class with like 100 other people in the room. Like he makes it fun. But so that music works for him. But for me, it's like I kind of took that as like with me after I finished my training. I admired a lot how he made people feel so comfortable and that's because he felt comfortable too.
Right.
So I realized that in order to make people have a really great yoga experience, it had to be a great experience for me first. So, and that kind of is talking to why I use like humor in my class, why I use metal in my class, why I swear in my class, because the more genuine you are with yourself, the more genuine you come across because that's what's going on. Um, so when I teach my classes, I think that I thought a lot about who do I want my client to be? I want my client to be someone like me where I could come in and I feel like very tired or I don't feel flexible or I could be coming into the class trying to try that extra, inversion. So I teach a class that's kind of like in that moderate zone where I
Hmm.
teach, okay, try this and then maybe do this, maybe add this, maybe you're in a headstand. Oh, isn't that fucking crazy? Wow, maybe I'm not fucking doing that today. It's too hard. I'm sweating my ass off. So
Hmm.
just kind of like teaching to what you would want and what you do like, because that's what comes across the best and what keeps you going, really. Because if you teach things that you don't like, if your speaking voice in yoga is this like everyone come down to child's pose, over enunciating in yoga kills me. Like it can be good because you can enunciate your words, but you don't have to over enunciate everything. Because that gives me a sense of like, do you think you're like the second coming of like the Buddha? Like, what is going on right now? Like, are you that important? So I don't
I
know if you ever
honestly,
heard that.
yes, and I'm gonna like call myself out because I've done it before. Um, that I don't know, like I make this like long O kind of Canadian sound sometimes, and people have asked me like, "Are you Canadian?" And I'm like, what?
How
No.
so?
I think it's like, no. Like, I'll be like, do you know? I don't even do.
No.
I don't fucking know.
Like a little curl on it, like a
Oh,
no.
yeah, a
A
little curl
boots?
on it.
Oh, I can't do accents.
Same. So yeah, and I'm with you on that. It's like, hey, teachers, listen, like, be authentic. And I feel like the first time I started to get really authentic with my music was when I started teaching yoga and bar fusion, because the bar was more dance like, and the things that I
Yeah.
really like to dance to is like, this is where the industrial goth part of me starts to come out. So people just expected, like, okay, we're going to go to Tracy's bar class, we're probably going to be hearing like Nine Inch Nails, like, that's my shit, that's my jam, Susie and the Banshees,
Nice.
just any of those things, like, because that's what motivates me to do all that bar stuff,
Yeah.
you know? And a lot of people would come up to me and be like, hey, like, I come to your class for you, and I also come for this music because I'm really angry. Like, I would hear that all the time, that they didn't want to like go to the classes, especially for that modality of movement. They felt like they didn't get out what they needed to get out because the class was pop music or was hip hop, which I also love hip hop and I also love rap. But like, people needed something that was a little bit darker and a little bit grungier and grimier and sexual, which I love
Mhm.
teaching a super sexual bar class, because for me, being and tapping into my sexuality is therapeutic as a person that has experienced sexual trauma. And so reclaiming it through that movement was very, very, very important. And I didn't get that in traditional yoga spaces that were very safe and sanitary. So I wanted to create that for the people that I was working with.
Yeah. I super admire that about you. I remember seeing one of your posts, about talking about your trauma related to that, and it just, like, it gave me the chills in a good way because it's, like we talked about, it's not very, openly discussed in the yoga world, and, I don't have well, I'm very lucky I don't have that kind of trauma in my life, but I do remember but I think yoga studios need to be better at teaching how to well, but obviously adjustments now are kind of a no-go, but in the past, I remember I got this adjustment once in, I think it was in frog, and I mean, if you know what
Mhm.
frog looks like, dear listener, you know that it's already a very vulnerable, difficult and vulnerable and somewhat sexual pose if, depending on what you do with it. So, I had this male teacher, it was the first time taking his class, and I was in frog, and I
Mhm.
already was struggling because frog is a very hard pose for me to do, so I was taking it easy. He came in and he pressed down on me in this way that felt very invasive and horrible.
Mhm.
And another teacher that actually I was friends with, a male, gave me this adjustment in pigeon one time that I was just like, wow, we need to teach our teachers, and sometimes especially the men, how to be more aware of like what their hands are really doing because they're not always just helping me in a pose. They're sometimes triggering something or just making me feel really uncomfortable to the point where I don't feel safe.
Yes. And I am with you on that, because I think that all yoga teachers should be more trauma informed.
Hmm.
And something that I started to bring into my teaching, which I learned from being a part of the BDSM community, I started to bring safety words into my class. So
Oh,
I would kind of establish it with everyone. And sure, it was kind of like, haha, funny, but I would take it very serious. And if they understood, like,
right.
I'm taking this serious. And especially when we're approaching people from behind or all these things, like, I would first speak without touching. I'd be like, is it okay if I touch your hip with my
Yeah.
hand? Like, I would be very specific on what I was saying. And if I touched a little bit too much, because I think people, and especially like as a woman, because we have the fight response, we have flight, and I also believe we have freeze. We have
Freeze, definitely.
and I'm a freezer. Like I will become paralyzed if I'm in a state where my trauma gets triggered, which makes it very hard to set boundaries. And so being like,
Right.
no, I don't like that, or please don't touch me are hard. But if we have like a phrase of words where like usually it'll be something silly like tacos, that's our
Yeah,
safety
just to
word
break the tension a little bit too, to make people
yeah,
more comfortable to say it.
right. Because then they don't feel like they're really putting themselves out there by establishing a boundary. And every
Mhm,
time they set that boundary, instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry, I say thank you. Like,
mhm,
thank you for establishing your boundaries. The same, it's the response that I train myself to use anytime I like misgender somebody or use incorrect pronouns, because when
right.
you say I'm sorry, it kind of puts them in a position to say it's okay, and it's kind of not okay. Like we should be respecting how people are identifying.
Right. Yeah, I hear that a lot from my non-binary and trans friends where it's exhausting when people are just making this spectacle of apologizing for using the wrong pronoun, because it usually, even that's enough, but the conversation usually doesn't just end after, "Oh my god, I'm sorry." It usually goes into this discussion about, "I never do that. It's really hard. I can't get your pronouns right. I've just known you for so long. I've known you since And then it's this whole thing about how they're airing out their like grievances about like how they feel bad, and and it's kind of like it's on the burden of the person to like, you're fine. And it reminds me a lot of like the Black Lives Matter talk about like white people doing something wrong and then just going on this whole thing about, I'm so sorry, here's an explanation, a justification. It's like, just be sorry and learn and move on and don't do it again. That's all that we're asking.
Yeah, I'm the overcorrection. Like I trying to
Right.
be very mindful that I'm not doing the overcorrection because that doesn't help either. It
Right.
really doesn't.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm a queer woman, and I'm bi, so I often get looked at as a straight woman, which really, um it doesn't feel great because you want to be part of this identity that you identify as. So it's hard to feel welcome in a space that you are part of. But I do recognize that I have like privilege in the fact that I'm married to a cis man, and I'm a cis woman. So I obviously get like straight privilege in public spaces, especially in places where I might not be as welcome if they did know I was queer. So I try to make my yoga spaces very inclusive for all people, especially queer people too, because that's my identity as well. And that's something that I can relate with people. Um, so just having this intersectionality of like all these things going on, like, metal, queer, like just like raw emotion and trauma and all that shit going on. I think that there's like a pathway for so many different people to come into it. And I have so many people that come in and they're like, listen, I didn't even like metal or know any metal bands before. It's like, I didn't start as a metal fan until my late teens, early 20s. So it's like,
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with exploring something new, even like later in life, and just trying it out.
Yeah, and I really love how now, like in the metal scene, there is, and I kind of see this growing realization of like, oh yeah, we should take care of ourselves. Like I really started to see it when Nurgle from Behemoth started like posting himself in yoga poses and studying yoga because
Oh,
for him,
really?
yeah, on
I
his
haven't seen that.
Instagram. And interesting enough, when I was teaching in Los Angeles still, there was this guy that would come to my class and he would come in wearing band shirts. And he's like this kind of older, like surfer looking dude. So I would like ask him, I'm like, oh, who are you? Like anytime we see like another alt person step in, I kind of like want to like gravitate towards him.
Right.
And he was wearing, I think it was like, I don't know. I heard right now that Misfits are canceled because their lead singer is a Proud Boy. But anyways, he was wearing like a Misfits
Danzig.
shirt or something.
Yeah.
He's an asshole. But so this guy was like, "Oh yeah, I like manage metal bands," and I was like, "Oh really? Like who do you manage?" And he's like, Megadeth and Behemoth, and I was like, like,
That's some big stuff.
yeah, seriously, and Slipknot. So, he was really awesome and kind of getting me involved with his bands. And like anytime I wanted to go see a show, if he was involved with it, which there was this huge tour going on, and it was Slayer, Behemoth, and Lamb of God.
I went
And
to that tour.
did
I went
you?
to that
Wasn't
show.
it so awesome?
Yeah, I went to that show. I think Mohegan Sun. I think it was at, and I think it's in Connecticut,
Okay.
or Rhode Island. Probably Connecticut though, because that's more on brand. With a big venue like that, and then I got to gamble after and won $400. So it was a great time. What a great
Oh
time.
shit. Win.
Win-win.
Win fucking win. Yeah,
Hmm.
no. And especially now that I'm like older, I'm definitely not like a pit person anymore. Like I used to just
Yeah,
throw myself like a bag of bones into pits, and now I'm like, oh, my cervical spine.
yeah. Like my
I
teeth. These are not cheap. I can't. If they get broken, they're going to be very expensive. I can't have that.
I can't tell you. I mean, the one band that I've seen the most is Slayer. I think I've seen Slayer 5 times. And every time I've seen them play, I've thought that my life might end like at any point just because of how fucking nuts their shows are. And
Hmm.
at this last show that I went to, which was at the Forum in Inglewood, of course, there's like beer all over the floor because that's what happens at metal shows. And it
Hmm.
literally turned this place into like an ice rink. And I think I
Yeah.
saw like 5 broken ankles in
Oh.
15 minutes. Like just dudes being carried out by their friends, but they're so stoked. They're like, fucking Slayer.
Yeah.
Like that's their shit right there. Like breaking your ankle at a Slayer show is like a Christmas present on Christmas morning.
You just
But
gotta say it was from the pit and not from slipping on some beer.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, I just, ugh, I'm just so stoked that you took time out of your morning, and especially since you're so busy getting ready to move to Austin, taking time to speak with me about this. I mean, I'm just really inspired to see people like me doing what we're doing and being like pretty widely accepted in doing it. Like I think that's a unique turn, is that people are starting to look at the fringes and see how people are expressing themselves in yoga.
Yeah, yeah, I'm super pumped that you're having me on here. I mean, I'm like a huge fan of your Instagram and your teaching. So I'm always like showing George like your cat pictures, like look at this picture, and like I remember you shared this Instagram story of you like slapping his belly with your foot to the music, like dun 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 dun, and I like laughed for so long and showed him. We were just like laughing at it. So I like stalk your page. So I hope you're cool with that.
Totally give you full consent.
Cool.
Enthusiastic. And same, like, love everything you're doing. You just got a huge sponsorship with Liquid Death. How did that
Yeah.
come about? I love it.
Well, actually, I was at a friend's house a few weeks ago, and he's like also a metalhead. He was like, "Do you want some water?" I'm like, "Okay." And he was like, "Here you go." And I was like, "What the hell is this? This is a beer?" And he was, I mean, not that it's bad. I would drink a beer right now, but he's like, "No, it's liquid death. It's water. It's like canned." And I was like, "That's fucking brilliant," because I felt like a strong connection with that brand, because not only do I love the packaging and the fact that it's like water, but like as a business that like brands something helpful as metal, and that they're very intertwined in my world. It was like literally like a sister company to me, even though they're much bigger, obviously. But I was like, I need them to be in my life. So I reached out to them on Instagram and I was like, hey, like we should collab or something. And at first they gave me a code so you can use metal yoga during your checkout and get 10% off. And that helps me. So do that if you want.
Yes.
But then I posted with Bork Cult. Bork Cult is an Instagrammer, that we're doing a black metal burn class on August 2nd and 9th. So check that out. So they reached out to me and they're like, hey, we want to fucking help you with this. We want to sponsor this. And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
really? I just couldn't believe it. And they were super pumped about it. They shared the post on their page, and I was just so stoked because they're a kind of brand that they understand that it's all about branding, and it's all about, because I mean, they know that if they're selling water, everyone knows they're selling water, but it's about like forming that connection where there is one somewhere, like health goths, health metalheads, we're just trying to drink
Yes.
our water. Like there are a lot of like straight edge vegans out there that are super into hardcore music. So our kind of audience is just totally mesh, and I'm super pumped um, to have them on. So, and Borkol is his Instagrammer. Her name is Lydia, and she's from Leeds in the UK. She's such a sweetheart. She's so fucking talented. She's a performer, so it just kind of worked out perfect that she started this page. Um, I think she just finished her master's in performance art, I believe.
Wow.
And it was just really cool to bring somebody on that was doing this, because I mean, obviously I only want people that are genuinely interested in those things like fitness and metal, because that's what makes a good product. That's what makes that connection. So she's totally into that, and she's just I love the idea that she's a performer, and she really talks about like the age of social media and like what that means for us and like human connection, especially during the pandemic. So yeah, I love to offer my audience, my students. I don't like saying students. Do you?
Kind of. No, because they teach me as much as I teach them. So
Yeah,
it's kind of this mutual exchange.
yeah. So students. I love offering new things and just trying out new things and seeing where it goes. And if it fails, it fails. I've got like wicked ADHD, and I don't mean that like not literally. I literally mean like I've been diagnosed with ADHD since I was 5 years old. They
Hmm.
started me on Adderall when I was 5. So
Party.
I was a nightmare
Oh,
with the Adderall, honestly, because not necessarily bouncing off the walls, but I was a zombie. So
yeah.
anyway, it's just kind of a left turn there. But with ADHD, I always read articles about how people with ADHD are more likely to become entrepreneurs than people without, because you have this creative, critical thinking mindset, and your brain goes in 10 directions at once. And maybe one of those directions is like, oh, that could work. And you have the audacity, you have the boldness to just like go for it. And you don't have the time in your brain to kind of like think about, what if I fail? Maybe I shouldn't do it. So that I'm super blessed that I'm not neurotypical in that way, because that's what led to a lot of the success of Black Widow Yoga, of trying something out of the box and not really caring if I fail initially, and just hoping that people enjoy it.
Yeah, and I hope that inspires people because I think, for myself and my own diagnoses that I've had, like at least in our generation, like when I was young, there were still stigmas around mental diagnoses or being on medication or all of those things. And so it's like, no, like your diagnosis is not a death sentence. Like
Mhm.
it kind of invites a lot of people in. And going back to Wort Cult with Lydia, like just in case if you are listening or if you're watching, like this is an individual that does fitness classes in full black metal corpse paint.
Mhm.
Like it is the dopest shit ever. And the pictures that she put together where she's like out and clearly it's like that area is beautiful. So she's like in
The
the
woodsy
woods.
area. Yeah.
Like
So
it's
perfect.
so rad. I just love how like these worlds are colliding because like that's
Mhm.
what I love. Like I was the dirty little metalhead girl that like there was this one time I went to like I think it was like a Cannibal Corpse show and I was wearing
Mhm.
one of those old school bondage belts with like the rings on them. Do you remember those? And they were very like clangy, like they had like rings dangling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wore one of those, and I was a big fan of crowd surfing because I'm a tiny human and I can just crawl up. And it's like, I took that belt off in the morning and there was just hair hanging from each
Oh my
ring.
God.
Like I was just scalping people on my
Oh
way.
my God.
And so it's like all those are such like weird, fond memories. And so
Mhm.
now that I'm like an adult that sometimes goes to bed at 8:30 and I eat a certain way and I drink primarily water and like I can still
Mhm.
be a metalhead and I can still be who I am. Like all of these things have a space for me
Yeah.
and for you and for whoever like wants to take it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing about, like, getting older and, like I'm not in my 30s yet, I'm in my late 20s, but I will get there very soon. Um, it's the thing about, like, getting into your late 20s and 30s is you become more comfortable with yourself and who you are, and you
Yeah.
don't feel the need to, like, do anything for anyone else. So you're gonna go to bed at 8, you're gonna wake up at 6, and you're gonna still love your fucking metal. And that I mean, that just proves that it's a true passion. It's not just a performance, you know? Because, I'm definitely guilty in the past of being like, "Oh, yeah, I know that band. Uh-huh," because you're afraid of especially what a lot of guys are gonna think of you as if you're a woman in the scene. So, it's
Yeah.
it's good to just, like, not give a shit and just be like, "I don't fucking know that band.
Yeah, I don't, you
What are you
fucking
gonna do about
nerds.
it?"
Oh, I love to do it, especially my friends that are like these like metalhead elitists that are like
Mhm.
into just super obscure, like weird metal that I've never heard of. And I'm like, yeah, I like sweaty biker metal. Like I honor that in myself that like when I started listening that I was really into Metallica and really into Pantera and like all those bands were my shit, and even when
Mhm.
I would go to shows, I look around, I'm like, wow, there's all these like old dudes around me.
Yeah.
Like I was just a little diamond in the scruff.
You're a diamond everywhere.
Shine bright like a diamond. I fucking hate that song, but I talked about it.
It's in my
Um,
head now.
sorry. Yeah, like getting ready for this interview today, I was listening to Gojira. I don't know if you like Gojira.
Mhm.
I love Gojira. I love those Frenchies. We were kind of like talking about like some of our favorite bands, and I want to go over those with you right now because we have our favorites, and also you're starting to work directly with some bands for a really awesome platform that you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, so exciting. So, oh my God, let me look at our little list right here that we made. So, I put my favorites as Gojira, like I was just mentioning, Behemoth. I love Typo Negative. I love Meshuggah. At the Gates, it's kind of that like thrashy shit.
Mhm.
Opeth, oh my gosh, and White Zombie, just something that I would like want to strip to. I'd be super into that type of metal.
To anything really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sporting one of my all-time favorite bands, Wind Hand. Um,
Yes.
they actually I emailed the band. Hot tip for anyone that's trying to get in touch with somebody that's hard to get in touch of. Their
Mm,
Instagram usually has their direct email. So that's a little tip for you.
hot tip.
Because you're like, you know how people hide their emails? You're like, oh, it's on Instagram. Anyways, so I emailed Windhand and I was like, hey, I'm about to start. There's this is who I am, Black Buddha Yoga. I do this, and I'm going to start putting music in my classes instead of just providing a playlist. Like, would you be down for that? And they got back to me and they're like, fuck yeah. And I was like, can you check with your record label? Because they're the ones that like technically own the music. They're like, yeah,
Yes.
we'll check. So maybe there'll be some Windhand in my classes. If you haven't heard of Windhand, they are this super doomy, amazing, heavy, just melt in your seat. Whether you're stoned or you're sober as fuck, doesn't matter. You're gonna just melt into a puddle and just like become the bass. And her vocals are just
So good.
amazing. She has a few side projects. I think she just started a new one too. Um, but I love female fronted. But more than that, I love vocals that melts with the music. It doesn't come
Hmm.
across as this like piercing other aspect of it. It just like they put an effect on it to make it like droney or chorusy, all that kind of good stuff. and it just melts along with the music as a general concept instead of like the music and the singer, which I don't really love that sound too much.
Yeah.
So that's why I love Doom. That's why I love Weed Eater, super like gnarly, like I don't know if you've heard Weed Eater before, but they're so amazing.
Yeah.
They're also crazy to watch live because the bassist, who's like the lead singer, just has this crazy look in his eyes when he sings. Like it's just like he's like definitely, I don't know what he's going through, but it's spectacular.
He's getting those demons out on stage, and I'm here for it.
And huge fan of Uncle Acid. They're just like I think they're from the UK. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I saw them on my birthday last year in Philadelphia with some friends, and we took the train there, and it was just super cool. Um, and it was weird when we got the show. We saw these two people with like Salem sweaters, like I got stoned in Salem, which is like the touristy one. So I knew they weren't from Salem, but I was like, "Hey, we're from Salem."
Yeah.
But Doom is just like what I'll always go back to is like my solid base because it just makes me feel this like deep connection with just everything around me and myself. That like deep bass droney sound.
Mm-hmm. And Doom is so perfect for doing yoga too, by the way. Like there's sometimes I just like throw on an Electric Wizard album and it's perfect from start to finish for doing yoga.
Totally. Yeah. I also have a ton of playlists on my Spotify. So people are just like, what do I play? I'm new to this whole thing. I have a bunch of playlists on my Spotify, and like I made a bunch of master playlists where I made a big giant doom metal playlist where there's like hundreds of songs and like black metal one too. So there's just tons of stuff to go through. Like you don't know where to start.
Yeah, we'll definitely like link those and all the information for this podcast so they can find that for you.
Cool.
Yeah. And yeah, like back to that vocals thing, like I always explain to my boyfriend, like vocals or even like lack of vocals, like you mentioned, you really like Russian circles.
Mm-hmm.
I like Russian circles too. I think they're fucking awesome. But like vocals will kill a band for me. Like if that ain't right, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do this with you today.
Yeah, totally. Like at first, I didn't really like Megadeth's vocals. Like Dave Mustaine, like he's an amazing musician, but it's like like very nasally. But I kind of started to like it after a while, just because it's like that nerd metal kind of sound, but it's just like I don't know, it grew on me.
Yeah, if you want to ever go to a really nerdy show and feel like, okay, I have a confession. There was once I went to a Dragon Force show. I don't know if you've ever been or seen Dragon Force or listened to Dragon Force.
Never listened to them.
It's basically math metal, like you're flying through a live D&D game.
Okay.
So I had like matched with the lead singer on Tinder and they invited me to go to a show. So I go to this show by myself, which usually like going to a metal show by yourself, I like put myself on guard because I'm like a woman in a male space. But there I was like, oh my God, these are all like 18-year-old, like little nose wipers, egg suckers. Like this is the safest, nerdiest place I can be ever. And by the way, the lead singer never actually communicated with me after that. So I was just like, thanks for the free ticket, dude. See you
later. At least get something out of it, right?
Exactly. So just to like round everything off for today, because I want to make sure that you get time to keep packing and doing your thing, I wanted to kind of give everybody your information where they can find you. So if they ever want to buy merchandise or get the DL on classes, they can always go to blackwidow.com. You spell it the way it sounds, BLACKWIDOYOGA.com. And also you have a new platform coming up for your online classes. And what's the deal with that? Let us know.
Yeah, so we've been doing, I keep saying we because it's like a brand, right? But I've been doing classes on Zoom where it's totally donation based because I trust that, you know, people that come and that can pay, they will, which they have. And I'm super grateful for all of the people joining my classes and donating, I sometimes would just get someone throwing like quadruple the amount that was the suggestion. So I'm just like,
Oh,
thank you all so much for that. You've kept me going. Um, so yeah, I'm moving to a new platform. It won't be Zoom anymore. It will be Union.fit. It's a brand new platform. It's by the creators or some of the creators of Ticketfly. So they kind of already have like knowledge of like, how to build a website, how to build a online database kind of thing. So it's really cool. I just spent a bunch of money yesterday buying sound equipment. I got a brand new headset mic. I already had one, but it was just so clunky and old. It's like the color of my skin, so it'll like well, you won't even see it. And it has like a hip pack. It's going to be wireless, so it's going to be really great sound, not these AirPods anymore. Um, I invested in all this other sound equipment, and these videos are going to have actual metal music playing during the class. So it's not,
yes.
yeah. So I'm not just sending the playlist out or linking it on the YouTube video. I'm actually playing the music. I'll hear the music. You'll hear the music at the same time. So I'm super pumped. So shout out to all of these bands. I made posts on Facebook, and a bunch of bands emailed me saying, use our music, just give us credit. So I'm super grateful for all those bands. So check out union.fit. And I think my official URL is / black dash metal, or sorry, black dash widow dash yoga. I think I might change it to the Black Widow Yoga, but so I'm kind of building that website, and if you become a monthly member, you can have access to all of the old classes that were streamed live on the site, and then they get saved into the replay library. So if you become a monthly member, I think it'll be about $26.66 a month, and that includes at least 4 live classes in all the replays. You can also just pay for one class at a time. So I'm
I
super
can't wait to
excited.
become a member. I'm so excited.
And I'm just so glad because I wanted to bring like better quality videos and sound, but I just didn't have the means at the time to do it. So I'm really happy to do this now. And a huge shout out to David Vendetti again. He walked me through the whole process of what to buy, how to work it. So shout out to him too.
Yes. We got to lift each other up. We got to help each other. And like,
Totally.
it's so good because what you invest like in your business, I keep telling, teachers this because it looks like we're going to be doing online things for a while. Like
Right.
the more you invest in your business, like these are great things. People will want to come because of the quality, and obviously because it's you, and they like teachers and students. These are intertwining symbiotic relationships. And so I'm so excited to like watch you grow and watch you do these things and keep developing your brand. One of my favorite things in the world, other than this planchette top that I'm wearing right here, it's basically a bra and a top. I'm always tits out in it. But this is like, I get compliments on this Room 237 fanny pack all the damn time. Like people love it. They're
Nice.
like, where do you get that? Where do you get it? And I'm just like, blackwidowyoga.com, dude. And like you have your like your brand, like your logo inside. Like it's just so good. Your quality is amazing. I send people to you all the friggin' time.
I'm always mentioning you too, so thank you. And
Thank
not because
you.
it's exchange. I just love what you do, and I love your page, and I love how you bring like humor and just every like facet of your personality to your like essential like a brand and to your page. It just feels like I've known you, and I just have never actually met you in person. So I love you.
I love you too. So what are the Instagram handles so that people can follow you if they aren't already? Let us know.
Yeah, so my main one is Black Widow Yoga, pretty simple. I also made one just to like share posters, like like event stuff coming up, Black Widow events. And my kind of personal yoga page for Instagram is Metal Yoga with Tina. Just because I kept tagging my like personal page, and I just got so many friend requests, and I was like, "Ooh." But it can be fun to kind of separate from the Black Widow Yoga brand for a minute and just share like a yoga related thing I want to share. and just to kind of bring a face to the brand a little bit more, so I can connect, because I kind of miss making those posts about my day and how yoga is about A, B, C, D, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just nice to bring a more personal touch.
Amazing. And also, you, like you mentioned, with Bort Cult, you have your black metal burn on
Hmm.
August 2nd and August 9th, and that's with Liquid Death Mountain Water sponsoring. And you also have all that information both on your Instagram and on your Facebook. So I will have all those events linked coming up. And I'm just so excited to see how you grow and shift and change and mutate, especially with this move coming up. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I
yes.
guess just quickly, I just wanted to say that I am like obsessed with Instagram, so I post all the time because it's so fun for me to be posting and like seeing people's like reaction and stuff. But I am starting my graduate program in a couple weeks, so I've just been like thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? I just have to post less. I have to do less with the yoga. So I'll still be offering my classes once a week, maybe twice a week, but I'm definitely you're gonna see less content being shared because when you go on Instagram and you see the little red boop notification, you just become obsessed. At least I do. So I
Mhm.
need to just kind of pull away from that a little bit and just focus on my schoolwork. So that's just a little update in case it looks like I haven't been posting a lot.
Well, I'm here for you. I support you. I know all of your people support you. And so if you need to take time for yourself, that'll only enrich what you do and make you better, then hell yeah, we're fucking here for it.
Cool.
Thank you. Thanks again, Tina. Um, so yeah, I'll have all the information linked below. I am honored that you are here. Thanks for honoring your darkness and being with me this morning. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, T. Bye.
Bye.